Code of Professional Conduct for Court Interpreters, based on the Florida Rules for Certification and Regulation of Spoken Language Court Interpreters. This is an abbreviated selection of illustrative scenarios that reinforce the principles outlined in the Code of Professional Ethics, along with sample statements on how to address the judge in various situations. Listeners from other states are encouraged to consult their own state's code of conduct.
First, professional conduct court interpreters are expected to maintain professionalism at all times. This includes appropriate behavior, respectful communication, and full adherence to the Code of Professional Conduct. Professional conduct is not optional. It is a required standard in every courtroom setting. Example: an interpreter arrives early, dresses appropriately, and interacts with court staff respectfully. Even under pressure, they remain calm, impartial, and focused on their role.
Second, accuracy and completeness. Interpreters must convey the entire message faithfully and idiomatically without adding, omitting, or altering meaning, tone, or intent. They should reflect the speaker's emotional emphasis, but they must not mimic or dramatize the speaker's gestures or emotions. If the interpreter realizes they made an error, they are obligated to correct it immediately to preserve accuracy. Example A, witness says, "I saw him around 8:30 near the corner store." The interpreter must render every detail, the time, the location, and the phrasing, without summarizing or modifying the statement.
Third, representation of qualifications accurately. Interpreters must present their training, certification, and experience truthfully, so the court can properly evaluate their ability to provide interpreting services. They must never exaggerate, omit, or misrepresent their credentials. Example: before accepting an assignment, an interpreter is asked about their background. They respond honestly. "I hold a state certification in Spanish-English court, interpreting, and have 3 years of courtroom experience." They do not inflate their qualifications, allowing the court to make an informed decision. When sworn in, the interpreter raises their hand and may respond as follows: "I do. Jane Doe, state certified court interpreter, English, German."
Fourth, impartiality and avoidance of conflicts of interest. Court interpreters must remain neutral, unbiased, and free from any conduct that could suggest favoritism or a conflict of interest. They must not express personal opinions, engage in conversations with parties or their relatives, or participate in any activity that could compromise their neutrality. Interpreters are required to disclose any prior personal or professional involvement that could reasonably be seen as a conflict of interest, and they must decline assignments where payment depends on the outcome of the case. Example: during a break, a relative of the defendant asks the interpreter, "You believe he's innocent, right?" The interpreter responds, "I'm here only to interpret. I cannot express personal opinions or discuss the case." By maintaining neutrality and avoiding any appearance of bias, the interpreter fulfills their duty as an officer of the court. A private attorney offers, "If we win, I'll pay you double. If we lose, I can't guarantee payment." The interpreter must decline, explaining that outcome-based compensation violates ethical standards. Example: "Thank you for the offer, counsel, but I must decline. Interpreters cannot accept compensation that depends on the outcome of a case. It would violate the professional code of ethics. My payment must remain independent of the result."
Fifth, confidentiality and restriction of public comments. Interpreters must strictly protect the confidentiality of all information obtained during proceedings, including attorney-client communications. They may not disclose, discuss, or offer opinions about any case they are working on or have worked on, even if the information is not privileged. But if an interpreter becomes aware of information suggesting imminent harm or a crime being planned, they must report it immediately to an appropriate judicial authority who is not involved in the case and seek guidance. Interpreters must also avoid media interviews or public commentary about any aspect of a case, even after it concludes. Example: after interpreting a private attorney-client conversation, another person asks the interpreter what was discussed. The interpreter declines to share any information, citing confidentiality, and maintains the privacy of the communication. For example, "I'm sorry, but I cannot share anything that was discussed. Attorney-client communications are confidential, and I'm not permitted to disclose any information."
Sixth, professional demeanor. Interpreters must conduct themselves in a manner that reflects the dignity of the court. They should follow established protocols, procedures, and dress codes, and work without drawing unnecessary attention to themselves. Interpreters are expected to remain composed, respectful, and neutral at all times, even in stressful or emotionally charged situations, and must follow all instructions given by the court. Example: during a heated exchange in the courtroom, the interpreter stays calm and neutral, interpreting accurately without showing emotion or personal reactions, maintaining the decorum expected in judicial proceedings.
Seventh, scope of practice. Interpreters must limit themselves strictly to interpreting or translating. They may not give legal advice, explain forms, act as counselors, or express personal opinions to anyone for whom they are interpreting. If interpreters need assistance during a proceeding, such as clarification, repetition, or a slower pace, they must request permission from the court and clearly indicate that they are speaking on their own behalf, typically by using the third person. Interpreters may convey legal advice only when the attorney giving the advice is physically present. They must not perform duties that belong to other court personnel. For example, if the interpreter needs clarification, they might say, "Your Honor, the interpreter requests that the question be clarified." This keeps the interpreter within their professional role while ensuring accuracy. To request slower speech, repetition, or rephrasing, the interpreter may say, "Your Honor, the interpreter respectfully requests that counsel speak more slowly for accuracy." To correct an interpreting error, the interpreter may say, "Your Honor, the interpreter needs to correct the record." Instead of pipe wrench, the correct term is Allen wrench. To report limitations in subject matter knowledge, the interpreter may say, "Your Honor, the interpreter is not familiar with terminology related to aircraft mechanics."
8. Assessing and reporting impediments to performance. Interpreters must promptly inform the court of anything that could hinder their ability to interpret accurately. This includes unclear speech, unfamiliar terminology, excessive noise, rapid speech, fatigue, illness, or any environmental or physical limitation that affects performance. Interpreters should also disclose when a case involves unexpected technical or specialized terminology and request time to review it. If asked to translate audio recordings with poor sound quality or coded language, interpreters comply, but clearly state for the record that they cannot certify the accuracy of the translation. Interpreters should request breaks when needed and recommend team interpreting for lengthy or complex proceedings. Example 1. Unexpected technical terminology. Before a hearing begins, the interpreter realizes the case involves highly technical medical terminology. They inform the court, "The interpreter would like to disclose limited familiarity with the specialized medical vocabulary required for this assignment, and may not be able to interpret with the level of accuracy the court expects." Example 2. Fatigue or health concern. Midway through a long day, the interpreter feels lightheaded and notifies the judge's assistant. The interpreter may say, "The interpreter is experiencing fatigue that is affecting performance and respectfully requests a break or replacement." Example 3. Environmental or physical limitations that impede performance, such as noise, overlapping speech, or excessively rapid testimony. The interpreter may say, "Your Honor, due to the construction noise outside, the interpreter is having difficulty hearing the witness clearly and requests a brief pause or relocation if possible."
9th, Duty to report ethical violations. Interpreters must interpret everything said on the record without altering, omitting, or adding information. They may not comply with requests from attorneys, court officers, or any party to leave out or modify statements. If such a request is made, the interpreter must immediately refuse and explain that doing so would violate the Code of Ethics. When necessary, the interpreter should inform the court directly to ensure transparency and uphold ethical standards. Example: an attorney asks the interpreter to leave out that last part, it's not important. The interpreter responds, "I'm sorry, counsel, but I must interpret everything that is said without omissions. Leaving out any part would violate the interpreter's code of ethics."
10th, professional development. Interpreters must continually improve their skills and knowledge through ongoing training, continuing education, and collaboration with colleagues and specialists. By investing in professional growth, interpreters strengthen their accuracy, expand their subject matter knowledge, and contribute to the advancement of the profession.
This episode covered an abbreviated set of examples from the Code of Professional Ethics. You can purchase the full version at www.linguamia.com under the menu State Practice Written Exams and other PDF files. Thank you for joining me today and for your commitment to professional interpreting. In our next episode, we'll explore the 3 modes of interpretation.